A River's Rhythm, Colette Copeland, in conversation with Bhaskar.
How did you become interested in this project about the Damodar River?
When one thinks about rivers in India, probably the first thing that usually comes to mind is the river Ganges, which has been an integral part of Indian civilization since prehistoric times. In fact, many chapters of Indian civilization evolved around the banks of the Ganges. Damodar has no such personality. By the way, Damodar is a male river, unlike most of the rivers in India. Now, he is very much like us, the ordinary people. Damodar's influence hasn't changed the nature or the society around its course, but it had adapted to the condition in a little disinterested, indifferent manner. Perhaps that's why the moderate journey of this river is so diverse.
I wasn't aware that rivers were gendered. How does a river receive a gender designation? What characteristics make Damodar male?
Yes, this is an interesting fact. Though most of the rivers are considered as female, referred as Nodi in local language, a few of them are considered as male, Nod in local language. The most prominent example may be the river Brahmaputra, which is amongst the top 10 greatest rivers of the world. They are commonly named after a male god, like Damodar is another name of Lord Krishna. It is commonly believed that this is after the name of the rope with which his mother used to tie him up during his naughty childhood days. Now, in practical terms, it could be the inherent character of these rivers and its influence on the surrounding society. These rivers display strength in their character, by and large, and occasionally causes massive destruction through the flooding.
Let's go back to how your project originated.
Because this river is relatively unknown and undocumented, I was interested in exploring the natural flow of this river as well as the diverse life and the civilization along its course. Although my acquaintance and friendship with this river is linked back to my childhood days, long before I took up the camera in my hand, I get my hands dirty with the sand and the mud of this river many times. This idea formed a few years back, and then I have been working on this project for last 3 years almost, discovering and rediscovering the river's wonders along its almost 600-kilometer journey. However, this particular series and this book is by no means an informative or scientific presentation about the river. It is a personal and sensitive account of the course of a very common river, which perhaps a miniature fragment of present-day Indian society.
A river seems a magic thing, a magic, moving, living part of the very earth itself. I found this quote by Laura Gilpin to be a beautiful description of what draws us to rivers and seas. What part of the river and its surrounding villages was most magical to you, and why?
To me, the entire stretch of this river is really magical and alive. However, the early part of the river, near its source in the Kamarpath hills of Chotanagpur Plateau, is perhaps closest to my heart. Chulapani is the place in Kamarpath Hill where This subsoil water takes the form of an enchanting mountain spring and flows down to the Boda village, far away from the advanced civilization of present time. It is a wonderfully smooth, indigenous inhabited locality. Leaving the pitch road in the distance, the red dirt path winds its way up to the hill through some paddy fields and bushes scattered on both sides. There is also a lone railway line, as if waiting if ever a train is seen. Beyond that, along the slopes of the hill, a couple of mud houses are scattered here and there, with bamboo bushes all around the place, the leaves of which are blown by the autumn wind. At certain times of the year, the air becomes heavy with the intoxicating smell of mahua tree. Locals fill their cane buckets with this fruit, fermenting it into the popular local wine. Maybe a sip or two for the mahua magic, to forget the hard life struggle for survival, at least momentarily. The daily struggle continues in the middle of nature's glorious bounty.
I found myself very interested in the legends about the river, especially Chinnamasta, the Headless Goddess. What was the most surprising legend or story that you discovered about the river?
India is a land of unusual cultures, traditions and rituals. Now this temple is dedicated to goddess Chinnamasta, the headless deity, and one of the 51 Shaktipeeth temples in this country. Now Chinnamasta is a goddess of contradiction, we may say. She represents death, temporality and destruction, as well as the life, immortality and recreation. The environment of this very ancient temple is somewhat compatible with tantric culture and also goes very well with this tribal region by and large. Animal sacrifice is still very much practiced here. Typically on Saturdays and on special occasion, the river in front literally turns red with the blood of animal sacrifices. It is not known whether it quenches Mother Deity's thirst, but there is no doubt that it provides solace to some people. The particular belief system extends to not only the indigenous people, but to the outsiders as well. At times, people in luxury cars arrive, standing outside the temple premise or in the air-conditioned guest house next door, witnessing the offerings of worship with the sacrificed animals. Now, this is the practice of atonement to wash away the burden of sin.
I'm fascinated with the contradictory characteristics of Chinnamasta and how she simultaneously symbolizes life and immortality, as well as death and destruction. How does one reconcile her opposing nature? I found correlations between the goddess's nature and the ever-changing nature of the river.
This is probably the greatest beauty of ancient Indian mythology. The myths are always multidimensional rather than prescriptive. More than religious, they are philosophical and essentially linked with the learnings from nature. Both spiritual powers and natural forces offer humankind the much needed affection and support. But at the same time, considering the situation, they also destroy the scene and punish severely. But even behind those punishments, there is a sublime flow of overarching kindness. The river exhibits this character very categorically. He unconditionally provides everything that a human society needs. Then occasionally the massive flooding happens. Yet with the flooding water comes extremely fertile silt, which feeds the vast stretch of the land on the river basin. This ensures excellent crop production for a few years.
From the photographs, it's clear that industrialization has negatively impacted some of the beauty of the landscape. How has industrialization adversely affected the ecology of the river and the people living in the surrounding villages? What are the environmental concerns going forward?
The central part of Damodar Valley is rich in various minerals and coal. Coal reserve is so massive that it alone accounts for almost 46% of India's total coal reserve. This area is a heavily industrialized zone and hosts some of the biggest industrial establishment of the country. Now, Damodar's water is one of the very important raw material for these industries. However, the resulting industrial process eventually pollutes the river. Pollution is caused by various things: overburden mining, fly ash, oil and other toxic material from these industries, coal dust, and many more things. And another major cause of concern is the uncontrolled and often illegal sand mining that happens on the banks of the river. This not only pollutes the river water but also destroys the delicate ecological balance of the basin and eventually increases the probability and intensity of flooding. Now, all of these are part of a much larger nexus between the people in power, industrial corporations, local influential people, just like any other developing countries of the world. Today, nature is paying the price, but we have to remember that tomorrow we must return and restore it back with the full interest. Despite the ravaging of his water, the ever-forgiving river decorates his wounded body in the hope that one day eternal beauty will triumph over all defilement.
We must begin thinking like a river if we are to leave a legacy of beauty and life for future generations. What do you think David Brower means by thinking like a river? How does this apply to Damodar and its people?
To me, rivers are very much like a noble person in their thoughts and actions. The rivers are full of life force. The river holds in its heart the diversity of the world and nurtures it prudently for the future. It promotes inclusiveness and mutualism. At the same time, it engrosses innumerable blows with infinite endurance. Yet, when the collective scene crosses the limit, it becomes a defendant and sweeps everything away with its mighty force. Damodar as a river is exactly like that. Now, two types of people exist on Damodar. Those who live and build around embracing this river. They love, they respect and try to protect this river as much as possible. And there are also those who use this river only for their material need, dumping their leftovers back in this water when the need is over. Unfortunately, their kind exists in plenty. I am genuinely hopeful that with the recent rise of consciousness about protecting the environment and the natural resources around us, the overall equation between the human civilization and rivers like Damodar will improve. And I also strongly believe that the younger generation will take the key role in rebuilding that relationship for us.